Hello, friends. Sometimes we build strong convictions from Scripture without first understanding the situation Scripture was addressing in that particular moment. And when that happens, we can take something that was meant to bring clarity and unintentionally end up creating some kind of confusion. So, before we talk about communion, what it means, who it is for, and how we approach it, we need to take a step back and look at the context of one of the most commonly quoted passages about communion. In First Corinthians chapter 11, the Apostle Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. In this letter, Paul is not introducing communion. They have experienced communion before. They have partaken in communion before. He is correcting how the church has been handling it. When the church in Corinth gathered around communion or gathered for communion, it wasn't a symbolic moment like we experience today on First Sundays. It was a part of a larger shared community meal. But something had gone terribly wrong. First Corinthians 11:20 through 22 shows us that instead of unity, there was division. Some people were eating before others had arrived. Some people had plenty while others had nothing. Some were being told to turn away from the table. And in some cases, people were even getting drunk at the table. So, what was meant to be a sacred moment of remembrance had somehow become a display of selfishness, self righteousness, inequality, and disregard for one another. So, when Paul goes on in the text to say that whoever eats the bread and drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty, he is not creating a barrier to the table. No, he is confronting behavior that dishonors what the table represents. The issue with this church in Corinth wasn't who was at the table. It was how they were coming to the table. And that matters for us because if we misunderstand the context, we begin to apply the text, we begin to apply the scripture in ways it was never intended. We might start thinking that communion is about reaching a certain level of worthiness or meeting a certain standard before we ever come to the table. But that's not what Paul was addressing. Over the next several moments, over the next several videos, we are going to walk through what communion really is, who it is for, what it means to take it in a worthy manner or even an unworthy manner, and how we as a church approach the table together. Because this isn't just a tradition we practice on First Sundays. No, this is a sacred moment that tells the truth about who Jesus is and who we are because of him.